Good morning and welcome to the USA Cares podcast. I'm your host, Matt Castor. I am joined as always by Alexis Becker. Good morning, Alexis.
Good morning, Matt.
You know, once again, I'm glad nobody heard the pre-show conversation and they're just catching the well-rehearsed beginning of this podcast.
Of course, we have to look really polished.
Because you were so mean to me right before this kicked in.
How
so,
dare you?
Yeah,
That is
whatever.
untrue. I'm going home.
So I'm excited once again. I'm always kind of amazed that we get to do another episode every time and that people are kind enough to join us. But here we are, episode number 58, I believe. 57 or 58?
This is 58.
58.
We're doing something right.
Oh, well, I don't know. I think we have good guests. I think they tolerate you and I.
That is what we're doing right.
That's what we're doing right. And last week or the last episode was pretty amazing with Krist Bustler.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Chris for being brave enough to come on and share his story. Very powerful story, and really one that I didn't know, a career that I didn't know existed.
Yeah,
mortuary affairs, just an unbelievable task, and he did it with honor and grace, and was willing to share his story. So. Already had a lot of people before that episode came out saying that they were planning on listening to it and looking forward to it. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. If you are new to the USA Cares podcast, this is a podcast all about honoring our veterans. So we are, USA Cares is a nonprofit based in Louisville, Kentucky, and we are here to help veterans who are in transition, veterans who are struggling, maybe just need a little help to get through a tough time. And our ultimate goal is reduce the factors that can often lead to veteran suicide. And we're doing that. We're helping people get through, maybe they're in danger of losing their home. Maybe they're in danger of losing their vehicle or their job. And we're able to step in and help people usually within 48 hours and hopefully turn their situation around. Not offer them a Band-Aid, but offer them a bridge to get through kind of that rock bottom moment they're in. So check us out, usacares.org. Get involved if you can. Alexis, we've got chapters all over the country.
We sure do. And we just added 5 more.
I know.
That's cool.
That sounds like a lot more work, but it's actually actually people jumping in all over the place, right?
Yes, we've got, wonderful volunteers saying they want to start these chapters in their cities and, just continuing to help more veterans across the nation.
What are those 5 new chapters? So we can shout out to those markets. How about Los Angeles?
Yep, and we've got LA, we've got Dallas, we have Northern Ohio.
And
Alabama?
Yes, so Mobile, Alabama, which is where my family lived for 22 years, and excited about that. Home of the USS Alabama, sitting right in Mobile Bay. Yep. So we're excited to have them in.
And we also have
Go ahead.
Blue Star Families. So that's an interesting one because
shout out to Leslie Capps.
Yep, and Allison Hedges, who are going to be heading up that team. But that's an interesting one. It'll be headquartered here because that's where they are. But it is nationwide. And
that's been kind of weird because that kind of originated right here on this podcast.
It sure did.
And so you and I...
So be careful if you're a guest of ours. We might find a way to... really get you in here.
Krist is our guest today, and I'm going to introduce him in a second, but we were telling him how ignorant we are in a lot of these things, and we're, as non-veterans, we're kind of learning our way. So we had somebody on talking about Blue Star Families, and I think it was like 5 minutes before the podcast, we're like, no, what does that mean? So we were trying to figure all that out. Now we've learned enough about it and got excited enough about it that we actually have a Blue Star Families chapter and can support those families
Just
who have
being an additional resource.
Veterans. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm glad through our ignorance we can help people. But a couple people I want to mention before we get too far in. Hardee's and Carl's Jr. Huge shout out to these folks who are doing these roundup campaigns at hundreds of stores around the country. Whatever, if you don't know what that means, when you go through a Hardee's drive-through at select Hardee's and Carl's Jr.'s locations, they'll ask you, do you want to round up your dollars or your money to the next dollar to help USA Cares? And so
you say yes.
And you say yes.
You get yummy food and help some veterans too.
Absolutely. Yep. So as you're enjoying that burger, just realize that you helped somebody today.
Yep. Carl's Jr. is going on right now until the end of February.
And most of those are West Coast, right?
I think so.
Yeah. California, Arizona.
Yep.
Probably Nevada. I should probably know this ahead of time, but
definitely
check them
out.
Hardee's and Carl's Jr. are good no matter where you are. So just go and talk to these folks. A couple other people I want to mention: Renewal by Anderson, McClellan Integrated Services, GE Appliances, and then of course our friends here at the Speakeasy Podcast Network. So thank you, Robert.
Yay.
appreciate your help. These are good folks. Check them out at speakeasynetwork.com. And just know that if you have a need, if your organization or company is looking to do a podcast, these people really are the best in the business. You need to check them out. They will give you a professional look, even if you're not professional looking.
That's your new
Is that
tagline.
safe to say, Robert? Yeah. Okay. All right. He's giving me a thumbs up, so we'll go with that. So I'm excited about the guest today. This is, we get some feedback from people now and then who say, hey, why don't you have somebody on who does this? Or why don't you tell a story about this? And a lot of times I'm like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. But one of the things that's come up time and time again is, hey, why don't you have somebody on who maybe came out of the military and started their own business? Maybe you have somebody who did something a little bit different, something out of the norm. And I think we found that.
Yeah.
So I think we found that. And if you're watching this on video, you're probably looking at the table going, what in the world are we talking about? So I'm going to introduce you, Krist, but I'm going to do my best to not butcher your name.
No, please.
So
I get it.
We practiced, and I don't know.
I did. So welcome to the podcast for the first time, Krist Thodoropoulos.
Thodoropoulos, yes.
Did I do it?
Right.
That was well within the standard of excellence.
Well, thank you. I'm just shooting for just good enough. But Krist, you've had a long career in the military, and then came out and kind of took a little different path than some other people. But I learned 20 years, 4 months, and 1 day in the Army. Correct? Retiring as a lieutenant colonel. Yeah,
that's it. That was it. And I just said 20 years at first, but sometimes I like to be a little more specific.
You got to be more specific. And I think, what's most fascinating when you say that, and we talked about this before we went on this morning and started recording, but what was that 1 day like?
Yeah, well, so the last day, I think that's where, everything kind of comes together. There is definitely that time, and I want to say that we were actually at a festival in Marion County. We were in Lebanon, Kentucky, and it was my last day in the Army, the official last day, and I was like, wow. There was a guy on stage, and he was singing the national anthem, and I was, standing there saluting, like,
kind of numb.
I never thought it would be this, but it's not so bad.
So you got a festival for your last day.
It was. I was working at the festival, but but it was a nice time, and so it was sort of like a very anti-climax sort of event, in terms of things. But as I explained it, it was very different from maybe what I had envisioned, but that was also a function of me getting out from overseas, and that was a choice I made, or myself and my wife, to get out from overseas. We knew it would be some difficulties, but we also thought, well, this would be the best place to really. The last 10 years of my career were focused overseas, working in some different embassies, and so it was nice to be able to do that and to have that kind of, to have an ambassador there and to have a couple stars, to kind of show me the way out. But then, it was a couple of weeks, and I was back here in the States, and then just sort of among the other soldiers in green over at Fort Knox, just out processing, and you're on a track when you're there, and you have to just kind of follow along and do your duty, and then
so weird. Now
there you go.
You mentioned something earlier though too about trying the kind of the odd thing about wrapping up your career overseas, right?
Yeah, it is very strange because in that particular career field, you are definitely in the minority as
what career field?
So I was originally an armor officer.
Okay.
So I worked and did a lot of training here at Fort Knox before they
when it was still tanks.
Right, yeah, the tanks here. So I did a couple different tours.
I knew that. See, I
was about to. You took my question, Matt.
So if you were here, back before they moved the tanks, every once in a while you would have, like things shaking on your walls because it would be shooting and things.
Right.
But I then went into what's called Foreign Area Officer program and studied Russian. My wife and I ended up learning it and then working in areas. We never worked in Russia, but we worked in the former Soviet Union kind of country. So,
nice.
So it was my last. I did one assignment in the Republic of Georgia, state, not to be confused.
Right,
state,
right.
But, that was kind of a weird thing when I was shipping my car one time. They're like, wait a minute, you said Georgia. Yeah.
Not that Georgia, the other one.
A little bit farther.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then came to Fort Knox for a couple years, and then I went back overseas. We went back over to the Republic of Slovenia in kind of Southeast Europe. And so that's where I retired from.
Okay.
And you're there, you're really in the minority. You're 10% between the Marine guards at the embassy.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple people that worked with me in the office, uniformed folks, and that's it. So you go from this sort of really, from a big base or something like Fort Knox, where everyone's, you're running by people, or driving by people doing PT in the morning, and then you go to out there and you can't wear a uniform because of force protection kind of things.
Wow.
And or you can't wear it out in public unless you're at an official event.
Yeah.
So it's a very different environment, and then you're surrounded by 90% State Department people, and which is a neat experience, but it's kind of like sort of a transition to getting out of the military, where people don't necessarily understand. You have to watch what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not, they just acronyms.
You can't be as relaxed.
They're not gonna. And so, but I think it was good training. Good, it's, I think, good training, but it was sort of a transition for me in that I didn't have to go just from one day before getting out, like running and wearing my stuff and doing Army things, and I was kind of transitioning for several years, really, at least in that, like, okay, not everybody understands this Army guy speak.
So what was a highlight?
I was at the embassy, and he was promoting a product over there, an adult beverage that he promotes, and he had never been to Slovenia, and the name of the name of the product is Slovenia vodka, and so he was there doing a tour. He met the ambassador. The ambassador invited him over to the embassy to do kind of an MWR, kind of a morale thing for the Marines.
I don't know what that means, but I'll pretend
morale,
like I do.
Morale, welfare, and recreation.
Thank you.
Sort of event. So he was there as like an unofficial USO kind of thing, but he wasn't doing things for USO. He was just there. So he came by, and they concocted this plan to get him to do this little funny video, and
which he probably did not want to do, but maybe.
Well, it's interesting. We sort of, I didn't, but he was sort of tricked into doing it. But he was very kind and fine with it. But he didn't know beforehand he was doing it. So when it was in my office, and I get a call, and it's from the ambassador's assistant, and she says, "You need to come down here right away. We've got a meeting." And I'm like, "Okay, well, this sounds pretty serious, so I need to go down." So we get in, and we go, and we sit around the table, and it's like, we're in the quote war room, and they're like, "Okay, Bill Murray's coming here tomorrow. We need you, Krist, to play the accordion." And I said, "Oh, really?
Did you play the accordion?"
I did. I started playing it, for a couple years before that.
That's funny.
And it's like the national folk instrument in Slovenia. Yeah, it's a big deal. So they just thought it was the funniest thing that there was this American guy who, because they didn't know any Americans ever played the accordion anymore. There aren't that many. Anyway, so that's sort of that's the most interesting thing I ever did.
That's fantastic.
I mean, kind of in a tongue-in-cheek way, but no, it was really neat. But it's just sort of those weird experiences that you get to be part of. I will say one of the most moving experiences I got to be part of was doing part of the POW MIA mission. And there in Slovenia, there were World War II planes that had gone down, during World War II and one of the raids. And so they kind of, part of their mission, if they were to be shot down, was to crash land into friendly territory if they could get there. And so Slovenia was not called Slovenia then, but it was sort of could be a friendly place or not, but it was friendlier than
the other
Austria.
options. Yeah.
So there were remains there that were identified, and while I was there, we got to have a team come over, and we'd actually go and find the remains, and then have them sent off and tested, and then get them repatriated back to the United States. So I get chills just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I didn't really I didn't do anything really, but I was,
part of it.
I mean, I got the people over there, and but I wasn't like digging, anything.
Sure.
But it was really neat. The ambassador was, he was just asking me every day, like, "Hey, what's going on?" I was like, "They're still there. They're still digging."
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's been a few years.
They're on like a mountaintop, It's
are they?
Easy.
Wow.
So that was a really cool experience. I mean, there's so many, but those are just a couple of things that jump out from the last few years.
What made, backing up a little further, what made you want to get into the Army in the first place?
I took a test to get out of class my junior year. I took the ASVAB. I don't remember what all that stands for, but it's the thing that people take it's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery.
See, you knew.
I
pull that out.
Wow, that was deep.
Yeah.
That's been in there a few years.
So there were all the recruiters in there, and then so I guess I did okay in there. So I get a call, and they're like, "Hey, you want to join the Army?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? No. I want to be in the Army. I was just get out of class, man. Leave me alone." And then like a week later, I got another call from the local recruiting commander. He was a West Point Military Academy field rep or something, so like a local recruiter for them. And he said, "Hey, do you want to go West Point?" And I said, I don't even know what that is. I mean, that was not a lie. I knew what the Air Force Academy was, but I didn't really understand that whole Army thing with the academy. And
right.
Just a dumb kid, So I was like, well, yeah, okay, I'll look into it. He's like, "I'll help you out," So he kind of walked me through the process, and it was lengthy, and it was so. Anyway, I didn't have a direct or close family that was in the military or anything like that. It was just something that I was like, "Hey, this sounds. Oh, they're going to pay for my school, and I'm going to have a job when I get out. Okay, I'll try it.
Yeah.
So, my current boss was my girlfriend at the time, and I didn't know how that was going to work out, but it did turn out okay. We're still around, so that worked out all right. But that was probably my biggest fear, like dumb kid, what's my girlfriend gonna think?
Yeah, exactly.
But
so you made it to West Point?
I did, and really wanted to quit my first 6 months. It was the standard. I was the standard of like, this is terrible. I don't know why I decided to do this.
This was a horrible mistake.
Yeah. People yelling at me. Why are you so messed up?
Your girlfriend's mad at you.
Yeah, everyone's.
Army recruiting sounds very intense. They ask you if you like camping or like very
basic, we've had so many things.
Basic questions like, do you want to go to West Point? And we're like, sure.
Well, I'm not doing anything else. I guess. Yeah.
I had looked at an ROTC scholarship as well, just as like another path, of things. But I did well in high school, but I didn't. I guess I didn't really. I wasn't that guy who got 1,600. Was that what you do? Is if you're really smart, you get 1,600.
I think it's 2,400 now.
Is
24. It? Wow, I'm dating myself. Obviously.
Well, in 2006, I think it changed.
I took the ACT because they said it was easier.
I did as well.
I don't know if that's true.
I did as well, but I didn't do that. And like no one was banging down the door except for the Army. So that was kind of my option. I don't say my options, but I didn't really explore a lot of other things. But anyway, I don't regret it. Amazing experiences. The Army was good, and my wife and I joke around like, I don't know, should we have gotten out when we did? We could be doing a lot of other things right now. I know it's a trade off though, and I think that's what anybody, or I think a lot of people probably say too, is that there are things they enjoy about not being in, and things they kind of miss. But then so there's that kind of back and forth. I'm still in that point of struggle between like, did I make the right decision?
And I think that's normal, right? And we talked to a lot of people about that, and I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who said, I wish I had just stayed in. I just wish I'd stayed in. You know, I thought it was going to be so great getting out, and now I just want to go back, and you can't. So,
that's true. For me, that's true.
So the interesting thing about you is that you come out and you and your wife Amity, correct? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm trying not to butcher names today. You didn't take the normal path, because I talked to a lot of people. I'm
here too.
I forget. You're kind of quiet over there. We talk to a lot of people who will try to go more a traditional route, maybe more of a suit and tie route, maybe
project management,
recruiting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that people try to be as close to the position they had in the Army or military in whatever branch they were in. And they'll come out and say, it's just not the same. It's not the same. You know, I tried to make it the same, and it just wasn't right. So you guys took a little different path. So what did you do?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story. I'm going to try to explain a little bit of it, try to condense, sum up.
Because they're looking at the table right now on YouTube, and they're thinking, where is this going?
Yeah, it's a roundabout. But so it really boils down to, I was selected by my career manager, quote, selected, to come replace him at Fort Knox.
Okay.
Because it's the Human Resources Command.
Right.
So I was managing people like me in my career field, like all over Europe, working at different embassies and doing that, the Army people. So I got to hear a lot of people's stories about, I was managing majors and lieutenant colonels who were either, hard charging and wanting to stay in for full career, be a general or something. And I was managing people who were getting kicked out of the Army at the time. The Army was discharging people involuntarily for a couple years there. So I got to hear a lot of different sides of the coin. And so I would talk to these folks and, get to hear, hey, hear why they wanted to stay in or what it meant to them. And then I hear, okay, people that I would ask, and they say, oh, well, I'm going to get out. I'm like, wow, really? Well, what are you going to do? And so I would hear a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
And this was about 5 years before I ended up getting out. So it was starting to float around in my mind. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do anything. And so that's where I think started to formulate. And then a couple of jobs that I had after that, I got to see some, I got to be around some of my bosses or mentors and things. And you kind of see those paths where, okay, if you get out, this is how it's going to go. And I hadn't determined whether I was going to stay in or get out at the time. But you could kind of see, like, okay, if you're this in your job now, like, you'd be good at doing this. You're going to be a consultant, or you're going to be a project manager. They're going to love you because of your experience. And I'm like, wow, I get to keep doing what that guy over there does.
Are you telling me I get to sit in a cubicle?
Yeah. Or I get to, and overseas, like, we'd have a lot of contractors come over, and I think it's kind of cool what they do, but like, I don't know. It's neat. They get to travel, but I don't know. It didn't really excite me. And so when we were at Fort Knox, we had this kind of odd experience. And I think it really encapsulates what happens to military families is you go somewhere new, and it's like, I'm busy every day. I'm gone, like I'm early to late, I'm there. Well, my wife, who's hard charging, and like, she needs to do something. She's smarter than me. She's got to do something. She's not like a easy her career. She was kind of in business and different things, but it wasn't like just plug and play wherever. She wasn't teaching or doing a nurse job where she could just plop right in and do whatever. So she had to kind of find something else to do that was meaningful to get her out of bed in the morning and meeting each day with challenges. So one of the things that she really developed over time was to go and be involved more in the community. And this is our first time. We lived in Old Louisville, and we bought a house, first time buying a house. So, and we're up here and not right by the military community of like you normally be like in a little military based suburb of housing or something. Right. And so we weren't around that. So it was nice to talk to people that were kind of doing something different. And so she got involved in one of the neighborhood organizations, or just volunteered in something, and was at a meeting. She met the original owners of this company,
which is the old Louisville Candy Company.
So we changed the name to Old Louisville Candy Kitchen.
And
we bought it, but they had had it for several years, but it was an older couple. They were retired actors from New York City, and they had taken a family recipe, turned it into these bourbon balls. And so they needed some help. They were getting older, and so one day a week she would go in, and she thought she was going to be like getting them groceries or something, but they were having her fill boxes and do candy stuff. So she saw the business and saw how it worked, and she would come home, or she came home a couple times, and I said, I don't even know. Like, I'm busy, like, so where were you again today? Like, you're doing work for someone, like, but they're not paying you, or I don't really understand. And she said, oh, I was in I'm working with this couple, and I do this and that. And I said, I don't know, what is that? She's like, here, just take a bite of this, So it was like, I tell people it's like the old Remington commercials where the guy's like, shave so close, I bought the company. So a bite so good of bourbon balls,
right?
I bought, we bought the company. So we joked about it over time. I would come home and say, oh, how was it?
Right.
Like, well, one day we should probably just buy that business because you retire and we could do it so much better, so much more efficiently.
Yeah.
And I'm like, haha, that'd be funny. And then she would go to the business and talk to the owners at the time and say, when you guys get too old and you don't want to do this anymore, I guess we'll just have to buy it from you. And then they would say, and one day you'll have to buy it from us, And then basically everybody realized that no one was joking.
She was sprinkling those seeds of thought, purposefully planning.
Well, I don't know who was purposely planning for who, but we were all just kind of playing around and then realized that, this could work, And so right when we were leaving to go to my last overseas assignment, we got a call from them, and they said, hey, we just can't physically do it anymore, especially because Amity wasn't there helping them as much, and it was kind of hard to get help from them. So they said, hey, we're going to sell it, and if you want to buy it, you can buy it. We're going to offer it to you first. And so he said, I just signed up for 3 more years.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of tough on the timing, but bottom line, obviously, it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
We're here. We took over about 2 months before I officially retired.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how we got into it. So it was really not like something that it was sort of like how I got into the military. It was not a plan. It was not really a plan.
And it's an aggressive thing because if anybody who knows Louisville at all, like bourbon balls are kind of a sacred thing here. People get a little bit like particular about them. And so that's an ambitious thing to jump into because you've got some stiff competition.
Yeah, we do, but we knew that the people that knew our product or knew the product were also very, very amped about it. They were.
Yeah, you have a loyal fan base.
Very
already.
Loyal. Yeah, loyal customers, and so our main focus was just to do what we could to expand that a little bit and early on, and I think we've certainly learned a lot about those kind of things. And I was born in Paducah, but I grew up in Illinois just because there was a hospital there. So I grew up across the river, but played soccer in Paducah when I was a little kid. So I was familiar with being in Kentucky a lot, but not that familiar.
Right.
And that's a long way away from here, even though it's still part of the Bluegrass State.
Yeah.
So the culture is even a little different parts. So I had never had a bourbon ball until that time when she told me to sit down and be quiet. It was so good. I think the outside perspective, though, I would say it made me say, hey, look, if it's good enough in whatever day I had it, it's good enough to have every day of the year if I like candy.
So how many years has it been now?
So we've had it about 3.5 years that we've owned.
And you've developed some more products past just the bourbon balls, right?
Yeah, just a few. I brought in a little sample today, but
I noticed that. I've been eyeballing them the whole time.
I cannot wait to.
I'm really surprised you haven't gone in.
Well, actually, Alexis, why don't you go ahead and try one of these?
Yeah, so it's
go ahead and chew it in the microphone. Yeah.
So that is actually a cream-filled cake that we dip in chocolate.
What do you think?
They put a little sprinkling of bourbon on it just to give it that bourbon, mystique.
Yep.
And then
the sea salt on top kind of gives it that sweet and salty.
Nice.
So that's a product that we usually sell. We sell in some of the outlets that carry our the bourbon balls too.
Oh, look at that! They're bringing you napkins. That's how good the Speakeasy Podcast Network is, by the way. That they will, when you're eating on the air, which you should never do, they will bring you napkins. So very, very nice touch there, gentlemen.
I'm not sharing with the rest of the office. I'm just going to take that.
I can't even understand what you're saying right now.
Yeah, it's
you're getting food all over the table.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah, so we developed those. There was a place that asked if we could make them, and we're like, yeah, sure, we'll make anything. You know, if we can do it, we'll do it. So so we started making those, and then they were selling so well because we were private labeling them for somebody else, and we thought, man, why don't we just make these for ourselves?
Yeah.
And then they've really kind of caught on. I can't explain the phenomenon of chocolate covered cream-filled cakes with salt on them.
It might be because of the names, and you have a really cool marketing.
Yeah, I've got the sticker right here on the microphone too.
Yeah, so
talk about that for a second. Whose idea was that? Because your wife came up with the brilliant idea to run with this company, and then was the marketing you or was the marketing her?
Well, a former colleague of mine, a classmate from West Point, he called me one day and he's like, your business is basically like a third grade joke all the time. Right? Yeah, because I kind of like a third grader or fifth grader or whatever.
Yeah. Boys never do grow up, do they?
Never mature past middle school.
Yeah, so this has been an opportunity to like not be in the suit environment where I can come up like, I think that would be funny. And she's like, oh, geez, come on. Nope. So so we inherited we bought the bourbon balls in the name and that. So, but that is. There's a little bit of backstory real quick is that so the original owner's aunt, her name was Gladys.
Okay.
And when you're named Gladys, you frequently get the nickname of Happy. And so she like most you get there's different names you can get, but that's one of them. That's a nice one you can get. So she had her own, like most people that have somebody in their family, aunt and grandma or grandpa or somebody makes bourbon balls,
right. And
so she had her own recipe, and so she made that, and then so Ron, the former owner, he used that recipe or kind of played off of it to come up with this recipe that we still use today. And when they had it, they had a picture of her on the box as well, and it was kind of an old-timey picture, and she was kind of not really
glad,
looking happy or glad. And so people would always ask us, like, why do you have that lady who's frowning? Why is there
an angry lady on the front of the box?
But I mean, I'm sure she was a really nice person, but she just didn't exude happiness, even though her name was Happy.
Yeah.
But she was the sort of the inspiration. So it's kind of like Happy's balls if you really go back into the
But that's not what the
word
says.
study, but it's just Happy Balls just because it. I mean, I'm not trying to be like super cliche in here, but I do sell these a lot in front of people, and I always like, I love it that it's fun for me to sell because you haven't even had one, and we're laughing,
exactly,
we're smiling,
we're having a good time,
and then you're gonna taste it and you're gonna smile again.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna get like 2 at least smiles, and then if you share them, then you're gonna laugh and you're gonna smile again. So
it makes it more fun, right?
Yeah,
it makes it a little more
smiling
enjoyable.
when you're eating. It's good. So so it kind of it's like you say, it sort of sells itself, but we do have a good time with it, and it's they're bourbon balls, and so it's like, okay, well, you can do a lot with that.
Absolutely.
So I do not shy from that, and so we've
and it's taken off, right? Because I mean, I know one of the places I like to go is Total Wine, and they've got some good stuff there.
Yeah.
So I like to shop. It's like the grocery store of alcohol.
It is.
But you guys have some product in there, right?
Yeah, we do. We carry. There's the 2 stores here in Louisville, and we keep them regularly. I was just there yesterday, actually, in St. Matthews. So if you're going to St. Matthews Total Wine, it's really fresh.
Absolutely. Well, all the bourbon hunters around town who like to go there like every Saturday morning, early in the morning, and try to find those rare bottles, they can pick up bourbon balls.
Valentine's Day is coming up.
It is.
You never know. We might be doing on location like tasting samples. Sometimes we do that. it's hard to do when it's in the fall or near Christmas because it's so busy. But, but it's nice when you can get there face to face with people and not be pressuring them to buy things and just let them taste it. Like, wow, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to get a box of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, good. I mean, it's a fun product. You know, it's a different career path. I mean, this is something that I love that you kind of moved away from a more traditional route and did something that you all just really wanted to do.
It was the decision. I mean, we knew it was a good product.
Yeah.
What we didn't know, you know, it's like a lot of people, what they don't know, you don't know the kind of fight you're in until you get in it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there were a lot of, still, there's a lot of challenges.
Sure.
I mean, it's
being a small business is not an easy thing.
Right.
yeah, it's a whole new world of you know, flipped upside down, like what you think you're getting into and what you got into.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, okay, you need to figure this out. And everyone was like, you're going to work with your wife all the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of joke about when you're in the military, it's sort of the tyranny of separation because, you know, you're always long hours and you're overseas or you're doing this and that and deployed. And now it's like the tyranny of togetherness every day. She's like, oh, you have a podcast to go to? Bye.
Yeah. I noticed she's not here with you today.
Yeah,
she's enjoying some alone time.
Somebody's got to.
She's the most pleasant. She would not blow me out of the water if she was here, but and tell probably the real, you know, stories of the military spouse. But yeah, she's at work.
So we'll have her on separately.
We want to hear those stories.
She's definitely the more of the actual like business and entrepreneurial sort of mind.
So what is it you would say that you do?
That's fun.
That's a loaded question.
I just that movie, you know. It's like,
so what is it that you do here? Yeah, office space.
I am a people person for sure. I actually thought that in my head on the way over here.
I'm kind of a movie nerd, so those lines jump out.
Yeah, well, I think it is a true statement that when you own your own business or you are part of an ownership in a business that, you know, and starts out small when there are two people. You got a lot of hats on the table that you got to switch on and off. So so I do, just because I want her to be able to focus on some of the more administrative things, like making sure we have the boxes that we need, and you know, making sure. And so she's the one that is the primary person. So there's like primary and alternate. So some of my primary roles are things that I did not think I would be doing as retired lieutenant colonel. Right. You know, so I'm like,
all the prestige goes out the window real quick.
Yeah, like you thought you were something big, just retire and then figure out what you
mentioned you had like, you were in the candy kitchen, like had chocolate.
I made that stuff this morning, nice. and I was helping her with a few other things that she's gonna have to get ready while I'm here. But but I mean, it's simple things, but you know, it's just like going out and talking to customers. I really enjoy that. I knew that I enjoyed it before COVID. Yeah, COVID is a great topic as well. And I think it really plays into what we're overall discussing. We'll go back to it, but being in front of people, I came from doing things like, you know, talking to soldiers and talking to civilians that I worked with, and I knew that the skills that I had. So what do? Like, I don't know what you call it, but when I go, I know that I'm going to have to convince somebody that I'm working with or that I want to buy my product. Like, I know that I'm telling them the truth, but I want them to do what I want them to do. Right. So I'm trying to convince
You're trying to build that trust very quickly.
Right. So I'm doing that in a variety of ways, whether it's with, you know, people who are retailers who are selling the product for me, or you know, suppliers who we're trying to get things from, and or places that we're trying to get into to sell, or direct customers. So there's all these different nodes of people, types of people, categories of people that I'm working with, trying to convince. And for one way or the other, it's like you know, when friends or whatever that book is, Carnegie book.
How
build
to win,
influence.
yeah.
I mean,
how to win friends and influence people or something.
Yes.
Something.
I mean, it's not. Like I can't even remember. It's been a little while since I read it, but some old, like when I was a lieutenant, somebody's like, "Here, read this." All right, thanks. But then all those lessons come back, and then you realize though that those are things that you build up over time, and that I think that whatever level you get out at the military, if you've had more than two, one enlistment or something, or one term, you've done a lot of that, and you've done it probably under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So to go and talk to people about candy,
right?
Like, okay, no one's shooting at me, and I don't have some general or somebody like breathing down my neck. Like, okay, like this is really not that bad. Like,
right,
that's fine. I mean, you want to better your life, and by being a good salesman or salesperson or something, but and have profit and be successful. But it's really it's comparatively, it's not that bad. It's really, so I think that I like that part of the job now, and I think that my military experience did in that way help prepare me and us really to do fairly well with that. And I think being very customer service oriented, because that's a huge plus, and for us just to know, like, I know what it's like to not have what I need when I need it, and to really, really need it. And so I know people really, really need candy. And so I try to, we try to really hard to get things to the people when they need it, and be, to be that this should be easy. This should be the easy part of your life. Like, you order candy and you get it.
Right.
So that's what we try to do. And I want to make you happy, not in multiple ways, before you even taste it.
That's awesome. Yeah. What about COVID?
So I think that COVID, especially in terms of the audience, or in terms of like your purpose in this, is that was just nobody saw that, obviously, or anything, and that's not something that you're like, okay, we're gonna buy this business, and in the second year,
because you bought it like what, 2019?
We bought it in August of 2018.
2018. So things were good.
So we had about 18 months of just skyrocketing. Right. I mean, we're gonna
be millionaires here.
Oh yeah,
soon,
go on Shark Tank, and
right.
And then it was just like click, unplugged. Yeah. And I mean, and I think everybody, especially a lot of small business people, tell you the same thing, in any kind of industry, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it when it hits you, it hit like like a nuclear.
Like the
bomb.
Money just stopped coming in.
Click, done. And I mean, Amity and I were just on the couch looking at things, and you could just, the phone's ringing, like, this thing is off. This thing is off. This person just canceled their order. This, and you're just like, wow. Some of the places that we private label for, were just like, call them, hey, we got, nope. They're not even answering the phone.
Everything just screeching halt.
Yeah. And so that is a huge, that was just like traumatic event.
Do you think your military career helped you prepare for that, though?
Absolutely.
How?
It was like, I was never in a position where I was in danger, I definitely was in a dangerous position, like physically. But I just, it was sort of that instinct of like, okay, just be calm. Like, because you're going.
This is the tactical pause moment. This is the tactical pause moment we talk a lot about, where you got to, okay, let me get my bearings here.
Exactly.
Let me assess the situation.
And I'm not saying that I did this really well, but this was that instinct of just like, okay, figure out where the incoming fire is coming from.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
And it was, okay, what we planned on, not happening. What are we going to do, and how? And I think that's where I just started scratching my head, like, okay, well, I like to do this, and I got a couple friends here, and like, I'll just kind of test the waters. Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have a resume. I'll just have to figure out how to do that. So it was a tough tough time. I mean, I feel like now, like we obviously things have come back and we've been able to focus on doing that. But I was really looking for different jobs. Like then I was like, maybe I should have done that resume class before I got out.
Did you lean on any resources during that time, or did you just doing it yourself?
When I was getting out, I was like, oh, I already have a job. I don't need how to write a resume class. I'm already self-employed. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Good luck with that. No, I did. And I'm unfortunately not prepared to give the name of it. I could probably bring that up some other time. But there was a veterans kind of group, kind of, or somewhat like yourselves or something that was there that provided some professional resources to get. So I got hooked up with I don't even remember his name, but he helped. He was like this big shot, like resume guy, and he helped me put together this resume because mine was, it was abysmal. I'm embarrassed how bad it was.
That's okay. We see that a lot.
And then I got, that kind of came back. I was like, wow, I'm kind of proud of that. It looks, I can actually send that to people and they're not going to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, because it's hard to figure out, like, what did I do? How do I make this sound? So he really coached me through that and helped. So that was really, really helpful. It just, even from just like a psychological or psychologically, just knowing that I wasn't out there by myself. I mean, that's how I felt.
Well, and it's easy to come out. It's easy to be in a situation like that and say, I'm really suited to do nothing. I don't, to feel inferior and to feel like I really don't have any skills and abilities to offer anybody. So I need to almost lie or manipulate people to make them believe that I'm going to be really good at something that I'm not.
It was tough. I mean, we figured out, like, well, okay, we need to get some cash going here. So we went to work at Amazon, both of us.
Good.
Riding in,
right,
clocking in, right. And it wasn't the funnest thing, but did that for a few months and kind of worked in it. But I also was doing these other things, trying to prepare, just taking that time. Like, okay, the business was still going, but it was
limping along.
It was 20%. Not even that.
Yeah.
For several months, at least until the fall started to barely open up a little bit. And then, by the end of the year, by the end of 2020, we had a really good holiday season. So that really, that was like a shot in the arm. But that time in between, between March and about middle of May or June, it was really like rough. But we also, I was like the king of side gigs, and I don't know, I love house history.
Okay.
Or history of homes, or like doing research. So I did all this research on my house because I live in the historic district in Louisville. So I did all this house history, and my wife's like, you can step away from that at some point. You're not getting paid to do it, but maybe you should.
Yeah.
So I started doing just some private research for people. That's kind of like it's a really random side gig thing.
That's really cool, though.
I love it. I mean,
because people who buy a 100-year-old house, 150-year-old house, part of it is the mystique of it. Part of it is
you don't buy it because you're like, this thing is never gonna break.
Right.
Everything breaks in them. It's
everything.
Like the old movies of like, the Money Pit movie is like, that's what it is. But, so I found just a few people that like that, but it's really like sort of an outlet for me to kind of geek out and. I go into the deed room. And
so what's the coolest house history you ever uncovered?
Wow. I did one recently. I've done about 15 different ones. And some of them were businesses, buildings. But there was one that had a soldier who was in the Louisville Legion back in the Spanish-American War, and he contracted typhoid in Puerto Rico when the Louisville Legion was there for some time, and then they came back. Well, he was sent back early.
Okay.
And he ended up dying in the home from typhoid when he was about 20 years old. So it was just, that was a really neat connection for me.
Yeah.
If I could ever find any kind of military thing, it's just neat. And then I got to learn about the history of the Louisville Legion and sort of what they did. And, I think that's really
wild.
All of them, though, it's like you find these just interesting stories because when you have a house that's that old, somebody lived in there, and there's basically you have the newspapers and Facebook of the time, and you can always find really interesting backstories on things and kind of go down different rabbit holes, And I think if you own, like you said, if you own that kind of house, you definitely, I think, want to know for sure, like, when was it built?
Yeah.
Like, because that's like a badge of honor. Like, yes, my home.
And if you can find old pictures of what it looked like back in the day.
That's like gold.
Yeah.
It's hard, but people really, I like it. And then I walk by the houses and I'm like, oh, I know all about that. Yeah. So that's been a neat thing.
Cool.
It's not, it's not something that's going to allow me to retire again early, but it's an idea. It's a seed of something that maybe, who knows, maybe after this goes on,
you still have to find something that you like to do, just for
and,
yourself.
Yeah.
And it was something I could do and get a little bit of money for it and for my time and do it on the side because I'm gonna do it anyway because I just like it.
Right.
So that was neat. And I mentioned the accordion, but I played the piano. So I'm like, maybe I can teach piano lessons.
Yeah.
So I got a couple people to. I mean, I was thinking adults. I would teach adults because my wife and I we don't have any kids. We got several nieces and nephews and godkids, but anyway, I had two, and I got two kids. One was 5 and one was 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, wow, okay, let's do this. And it's been fabulous, really, really fun.
That's really cool
to teach, and I teach exactly not in the way I was taught. And I'm like, oh, this is not the way I should do it. I would get my hand slapped for this or something.
Yeah.
But whatever. You want to put your feet up on the keyboard? I don't care. Whatever. Just play the right notes, right? Just go with it. Are you going to play like your hands upside down?
Sure.
Play with your nose? Yeah. Have fun. Life's too short. Have fun. So I was the piano teacher. I was this research guy. I picked up some open source analyst job, which is just basically like reading newspapers and like analyzing different countries. So that was sort of something that related to like my resume.
Yeah.
I kind of got into something like that, but it's work from home and it's hour a day or something like that. So that's a pretty simple one, but it keeps me fresh with like international man. I'm reading about Poland and different Greece and different places. So
it's interesting though. What sticks out to me is you find yourself in a situation where you can't necessarily go the path that you had envisioned for yourself. So being humble enough to do those other things and giving yourself time to get through that. A lot of people, that's where they hit a wall and they're like, I'm not, either they're feeling like they're too overqualified to do those things. Or they're just not willing to do it.
Waiting on the rebound.
You're right.
Yeah. Right. We also started doing before COVID got part of our home. We do Airbnb.
Yeah.
So I was used to cleaning toilets. Yeah. And I could.
You can clean a toilet.
I can clean a toilet.
Nice.
And I'm not above,
Sparkle.
And I'm not above cleaning a toilet.
That's right.
And it's fine. And but that's definitely something you have to.
And you appreciate those moments looking back, I think, too.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still cleaning toilets, so it's not like if you can't. For me, I had to take that step back because I don't think I was ever that guy like, oh, I can't clean a toilet. I'm way too important for that.
Right.
I never made it that high, but yeah, having that open mind and like I said, going to work, punching in.
Yeah,
that was a real wake up call.
But realizing it doesn't last forever. That's a moment of time.
Like this is not something I know right now. I don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
I want to find something else, and I'm going to we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And so, and fortunately, we knew that the world's not going to be shut down forever.
Right.
It's just a matter of, and we were okay. Like we have a commercial kitchen, but it's basically through our own building. And so we weren't renting space. We were renting from ourselves. We weren't renting an outside brick and mortar kind of place. And we didn't have full-time employees that were then dependent on us to help keep them going. We could have done that, I'm sure, with the different programs, the government programs, but it's something we didn't have to worry about. So there are places that aren't around, like candy places that aren't around. And it was just like if you're in that weird position where you're not big enough to hold out, but you're too small to, keep it going. It's just not there. So That's kind of, it's kind of sad, but we were fortunate in that way. And with the military retirement, I was never like, oh my gosh,
you weren't going to starve.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are definitely, people are still going to want their money, like somehow. Like, chocolate's not free either. So, you gotta, you want, and we never shut everything down with the candy. It was just a point where we could manage what little demand there was at the time for a while. So we were fortunate.
So what do you say to, the people are retiring now. A lot of people are retiring now. Mm-hmm. A lot of those people who signed up because of September 11th, now they're transitioning out, and they're like, holy crap, what am I going to do with my life? And I don't know what I'm qualified to do. I don't want to go sit in an office. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. But I don't know anything about starting my own business.
Yeah, well, I don't know a whole lot about doing it.
We should ask your wife. Do you want to call his wife? Let's ask her that.
Well,
what do we do?
She's definitely the brain trust in all this. But she, I think that if I had to do this again, but not have this to walk into, like if I was getting out, say now, I think definitely that, I always talk about the network, but I've never been one to be like, hey, can you help?
Yeah.
I'm not that, I never felt like I wanted to go to my friends or colleagues like that, but do it because those are the people, your military family, your network people there, they know people. And there are a lot of people that, one of my best friends, he was my roommate at West Point and father of my godkids. And, we talk a lot and over the years, but he knows, hey, if I see something, he's gotten out and gone into more of a corporate kind of thing. And, he's sending me things a lot, or he knows people. He's talking to a lot of different military people. So it's like, so many people if you have those military connections, and it could just be even one unit. I can't tell you how many people that have called me, and I'm thankful that they even think of me. But, like, hey, I need a recommendation letter or something, and so it's I'm more than willing. I'd love if I could help out somebody who used to work for me and help me. Like, that's like the coolest thing ever.
That's awesome.
So I just feel like it's something that you don't, like, you think you're tough and you don't need help.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, just reach out.
Isn't that crazy though? Because our friends and family want to help us. Like, they want you to ask them. They want to help you. They want you to succeed.
And I think too, my dad said to me a long time ago, I was really wanting to quit West Point. He said, I don't care if you quit, but have something that you're going to go to before you just
That's a very dad answer.
Make them kick you out before you just give up.
Yeah.
And so, but also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I'm trying.
Are you thinking of ways to get kicked out then? Yeah.
But I can do something that I don't necessarily love or want to do the rest of my life, and still be thinking about how I can go and be making positive steps towards finding something that I may not even know is out there. But if I don't reach out and keep that open mind, I think that's where you can get that kind of feeling like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing, and why, everyone else is passing me by, and it is definitely a humbling experience. That COVID period, like I said, it taught me, like, hey, when things are good, be appreciative of it, but also, just keep an open mind, because there may still be things like this. I'll probably not do this the rest of my life either. So if the right thing comes along, you never know.
It's really wild. I think COVID gave us all a lot of perspective, and you're gonna have another great run with this, and then maybe you lose that big customer, and it's not gonna hit you quite as hard as maybe it would have at one point.
Yeah, I thought about that on the way over too. Is just how the opposite sides of things if you're considering getting out or something like that, and think, oh well, I won't have to do all these things, but then you get on this side and you think, wow, I never had to worry about this. And it's the exact opposites. I never had to worry about a monthly check.
Yeah.
Or I don't even know, I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore because every day is kind of like there's no weekends or the weekend is like Tuesday. What is today?
Today's Wednesday, actually.
Yeah. Tuesday, Wednesday. That's a good weekend. But that's kind of how it. There's so many opposing things now that you look back and go, oh yeah, I never had to do that.
Yeah.
But now I do. I never had to worry about that. But now I do. Yeah. So my wife would say, you don't worry about anything.
Yep.
Well,
that's our job.
I guess so. Yep. Well, it's cool. I hope people, can see retiring from the military, that there's just so many options, and it doesn't have to be the standardized view. You don't have to stick with necessarily that specialty you had in the military, yet those things will still help you in whatever you do.
Exactly. I'm not, again, I think I explained that I still can't really tell you precisely what I did, not because it's secret, just because I'm trying to wrap my head around it still.
It's everything. I do everything. A little bit of everything.
Yeah,
right.
That's what Alexis says all the time when people say, "What do you do?" I pretty much do everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess looking back, it's sort of like, if you're a generalist, you could be, it's sort of like you could be plugged in somewhere and be able to assess the situation around you and then figure out a way forward and adjust as necessary. And I think that's one of the biggest and best skills that I think the military kind of, because it never goes the way you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a sergeant or you're a, colonel.
Yeah.
It's not going to work out like you thought, and people are going to be expected and need to do things that they never thought they were going to have to do. And so if you keep really that really open mindset, it's sort of, you leave as much open. I want to say one other thing that really helped us, and it was, for somebody who's maybe younger, that's getting out or something like that. If you have the time, you have the ability to get a very basic financial plan, financial advisor. I don't mean like, some kind of like fantasy football betting plan or something, but it could be part of your plan, but not the primary part. But that really helped us because, even though we didn't know this is what we wanted to do, we knew we planned for doing something beyond the military, or at least give us an option. We had some funds that were going to make, okay, this will be some funds to the side for this, but it grows from nothing.
Yeah.
But you can really start it with very little, but when you start to see those over, year over year, eventually what happened is that it allowed us the flexibility to reasonably consider buying this business and walking away from the military and go, okay, we're going to be all right. We'll figure it out. It may not go exactly like we want, and it didn't initially, but it at least gave us some flexibility. And I think that without that, it would have been pretty tough to just walk away from. And I say walk away, but with the retirement, it made it that much easier.
Yeah.
But it was still, you're still walking away from a fairly, standard monthly check and a lot of things you don't have to worry about, and a lot of people that really care if you don't show up on Monday morning.
Yeah.
You own a small business, no one really cares if you just fall off the map, like, oh well, I guess we'll have to fill the shelf with something else.
Yeah.
Here we go. So the concerns are different, but I think that was something that really helped us. And it's not something you can do overnight, but it is something if you have the time and you have the ability, like how can you better prepare yourself? Or if you're walking into something new, like keep that in mind, like this, maybe didn't save like they told you to, and you have to like go talk to the little ABC 123 financial planner person. But now, like, okay, I see the importance of that. Like, I'm here to tell you.
And there's so many resources out there too that are available if we're humble enough to be willing to accept help.
Now, and now even, I'm sure I could, if I needed to find somebody, or if somebody came to me and like, hey, I need help with this, I'm a vet, okay, go talk to this person or call them, because I know them, but they know 100 people, that they can help. So
the other side of it, Alexis, we were talking about this the other day, the sense of purpose and the importance of that sense of purpose. And I think if you start your own business or buy your own business or run your own business, I've got to think that fills a little bit of a hole.
Yeah. I mean, you find that you're the only person to rely on in that business. You're not, and that gives you more of a drive to succeed. And
that no quit thing.
Yeah,
like I'm going to see this through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think my moment in that I really embraced it was, we met with, I don't know, some accountant thing or some person that was, I'm sure it was accounting or something. And there was a guy there, and he's like, wow, I don't really know how you think this is going to work based on what you paid for this. And how, I'm like, I'm paying you to be this encouraging?
Completely bum me out. Yeah.
Like,
Thank you so much.
Did you pay too much for that? Or, in my head, I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You watch.
Oh my God.
So that was a really.
That lights that fire.
I'm still fired up about
awesome.
it right now. So yeah, but I also think this is something that we're working, my wife and I are working through too now, is that it really, like, you can't, like, there's no, if you think, like, if I thought I worked hard in the Army, I've never been as tired as I am. If you call our business between like the middle of November and in the middle of, or the end of December, it's pandemonium. I mean, just the hours are crazy. So we are really trying, like, let's figure out, like, it's a good problem, right? Good problem. It's great. Good problem. But it is a problem because you are not a machine. I'm not a machine.
Yeah.
I don't care how much the Army is like, it's your duty. You must do this. And so I'm like, okay, well, we must do this, and we cannot disappoint, and we have to, and it's like this drive to do it. But you know, the day after, like the day of Christmas, both of us sick. Oh. Just body just shut down.
Yeah.
You know,
and you can't really make candy while you're sick.
You can't.
I mean, you're still a human. You have to fuel yourself.
I think there's that, like, that's not something that we've really learned to have to deal with too. Is that is that balance? You know, they talk about, and but it's a requirement, and like just mental shift to get away from, because you know, it's like if you're in the military or you're in some particular job or you're some kind of duty officer and you're carrying around a phone and you're like, okay, anything could happen anytime. But then, like, the next day, you give it to somebody else. Or you're if you're a commander, there's a couple of years where you're always ready for like something that's going to happen with somebody. And then, but this is also something that's going to happen, you know, like it's your business and it's your baby, and you're constantly, you know, aware, and it never ends. And our candy kitchen is literally over our head in our house, so you
can't escape it.
So it's hanging over our head.
That's so cool.
And so we have to figure out ways to you know, I joked about the separation, but it's a real thing too. Like, you need to be able to separate, you know, just collect your thoughts, and you know, and be able to enjoy your own interests. And so there's definitely that mental sort of break side that is important, and it's. I never, I don't know, for 20 years I was so busy. I mean, it's like I never really had to think about that kind of thing.
Sure.
But when you control your own situation, there's not that self-imposed break at 4:45 that day. You go do whatever you want, and then you come back at 6:30 and do some push-ups. You know, it's not that regimented. So you have to, you got to figure it out, and what works, what doesn't. But know that mental health it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
And it's important.
Yeah.
To take care of.
Absolutely.
So you don't burn out.
Well, you seem to be doing pretty well.
We're not. I talk about a lot of first world problems. As I call them. You know, it's like dealing with demand, dealing with how to grow. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm reading books. Yeah. I'm listening to podcasts. to be honest, my wife listens to a lot more about that than I do, but I have fun. I'm creative. The side of things, I try to think, how can I make a new shirt that people like?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But also it is important, like I said, to like, now that we're into this for a few years, is to, because I think burnout, like, I mean,
is a real thing.
Like, come on,
it's a real thing.
How can I get tired of doing this? Like, make people smile, No, it is a real thing. And again, it's a good problem to have, but it is a real thing. So that's how to become a better business person, how to be, how to step away from so many hats and like, hire people. Like, okay, like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
So you're always learning, it's just when you think you know something, you don't. Yeah. You don't know anything.
Well,
you just learn how much more you don't know. So that's all like little life lessons, and I think the time in the military has definitely given me a lot of perspective on those things. Yeah. It's just like, oh right, this is kind of like what I dealt with back in Fort so and so, and
yeah,
okay, I can do it. Yeah.
Well, I think you guys are figuring it out, and it sounds like you're a great couple, being able to make it through all this together. So, and she's putting up with you, which is a good thing.
That's
important.
I'll second that.
So, it's the Old Louisville Candy Kitchen. If somebody wants to learn more about you guys or buy some product, where do they go?
They go to gethappyballs.com.
Gethappyballs.com. Check it out today. Some good stuff. I mean, really, just you're not only supporting a small local company, but you're also supporting a veteran, and that's important.
Yeah. I think a couple. Can I go a couple little off?
What do you think, Alexis?
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We'll give you some leeway. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is tangential. But we have been. We've talked about hiring people, and it's kind of hard to find people.
Very hard to find people
these days.
Now.
I'm told. And we're not looking for like full-time employees necessarily yet. It's just we're not big enough to really encompass that yet. But we have had some part-time employees, and and oddly, we live right next door to a recovery house, and they're great neighbors.
Yep.
But sometimes people that come in there, they need a little help because they're not in a position. They're not doing great. Sometimes there's vets over there.
Yep.
People come in and they're looking to turn things around. So I think it's super cool that we've been able to, because the director there and things, and I'll call them up and say, hey, if you got anybody that needs some work, I can help you out time now.
Right.
And so there's been several occasions where we've been able to get, when we've been, had that first world problem of being really busy, and we've been able to get folks from right next door, a couple guys, or sometimes we've had two at the same time, coming over and helping out but this Christmas we had someone come over. I mean, they just showed up, and they're like, and they have to pay rent a little bit. So so to be able to get some money right away, it was very helpful in the cases that that we were able to do that for them, and certainly helped us. I mean, I was like manna from heaven.
Yeah, really an important part of their recovery too.
And I'm like, and it was weird because I'm like, okay, well, we make bourbon balls, so you're kind of.
Is this a good mix?
Like we're not, we try to be careful and conscientious about like not having open stuff around, but it's still, I mean, if you're sensitive to it, you could smell it.
Sure.
But I think that's been a really kind of neat combination, a neat relationship that has been mutually beneficial so far. A couple vets, like I said, have been over there, and then we've had them come over and help us. So I try to, if I can, if they have somebody like there, I'm always okay. If you can't be like beggars and choosers kind of thing, but like if you got any vets over there, like that's kind of neat, because I think having that bond, like, hey, they always talk about, hey, there's the colonel that lives over there, know, and it's like, okay, well, my name's Krist, but okay, chill out, like, not a big deal. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, there's a group that we've been helping out. It's some classmates of mine from West Point who put together, it's called the 98fund.org, and they put together this fund to help families, Gold Star families initially, but it's also morphing into like survivor, calling it survivor families, and So they were putting together a retreat in Alaska and building these kind of primitive cabins and inviting the family members of the fallen soldiers. And, mostly it was our classmates. It started off just our classmates.
Okay.
But they were trying to grow the program to encompass more, more families, not just our class, but other classes, but then also people associated with people in those. So like if I knew somebody who was in a unit that I was in who was killed, or, that their family, I could invite them.
Oh, that's cool.
So that it's really, it's small, but it's growing, but it's sort of that awareness thing, but it's really neat. My wife and I went up last year and volunteered, took a week off to go build cabins.
That's cool.
And they're like, what are your skills with, I'm like,
well, I can make candy.
Break things, make candy, But it was a lot of fun. It was really neat to connect with the people. But then also we had 2 Gold Star kids who were there, and they're in their middle teens, so they wanted to help with the construction. They were old enough they could actually use a saw and things. But it was just super neat to be around them and to watch them form bonds with other kids, and then also to know that was that's another piece that just because one of the family spouse, she came to the director and she's like, because our class was collecting money to give to the family, to like scholarship fund or initially, and she's like, I don't need any money. What I need is a father figure, like a mentor, for like somebody that knew my husband or whatever, and can share those stories and kind of help, so they would so initially it started bringing these kids or a couple kids up there, and they would go on like 4-wheeler rides, or they would go out and, salmon fish or whatever. Right. And there's all these interesting, really weird things you can do in Alaska. Yeah. So now they're trying to do that at least, a couple weeks a year when it's nicer weather up there. But they needed a place to be able to do it. So we're helping build this out. So that's some of the sort of volunteer stuff. And, we've contributed to them. So if you're buying, stuff from us, we don't have a direct link to them yet, but that's kind of a small way that we're trying to give back to, and
that's important. That's one of the things that I always like is the companies I shop for doing something for somebody else.
Absolutely.
So
it's tough when you're 2 people, but it was fun to. I mean, I'll admit, I got to go to Alaska for a week.
Yeah, it's not.
We were slinging a lot of drills.
I bet.
But it was a neat experience, and just something that we're going to do again this year. So
good.
Yeah.
Very
That's
cool.
That's fantastic. So 98fund.org.
Yep.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So one more time, gethappyballs.com. Check out their great products. Check out all the things they're doing. You're supporting a veteran company. You're supporting all the organizations that they support. So that's fantastic. And so if you're a veteran coming out, there's one of the things we wanted to focus on today was just the fact that there's so many avenues to go.
And they're different.
This is just one. You may not open a candy company, but
you could.
But you could, and there's all kinds of ways. Just don't rule it out, and definitely ask for help along the way. So,
I appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story. And you were the only person who's ever been on here who wore a Bryan Adams pen.
Yeah,
which respect.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and some Elvis. So
it's I mean, it's just. Gotta have a little flair. I can't wear any medals,
It's your pieces of flair. Yes. Yeah. Again, Office Space. Yeah. We keep coming back to that. But how many pieces of flair was she supposed to wear? Do you remember?
It's 26, I think.
Why do I think 16? No, that's too high.
I think it's 20. I think it was.
Oh, so if you're listening, I thought it was. I was thinking 26 pieces of flair. Can you Google it real quick? We need to know this before we wrap up.
Yeah. That's important.
This is important. Make sure we close on the right note.
I mean, I was in my first armored unit was the same.
37.
37 pieces of flair.
Wow,
that's a lot.
That was way low.
She didn't stick with the job, so.
I wasn't even in the right ballpark with that one. But anyway, so I was in the first unit with Elvis. Same
unit as Elvis.
32nd Armored
That's
Regiment
awesome.
When I was lieutenant, and I thought I sounded like him in the shower. So,
maybe you do. I'll take your word for that. Yeah.
Side gig. You never know, right?
You never know, man. You never know.
Elvis impersonator.
Well, thank you for being on. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
Come hang out with us. Appreciate you being here and feeding Alexis some candy.
Yes.
So that's always welcome. I hope you enjoyed the program today. This is a podcast that we love doing. It's been a good outlet for us to reach out to our community. We've gotten so much good feedback. I think we started getting reviews.
Yes.
Which is really crazy to us. We saw a positive review the other day, and you never know.
That's like gold, right? I mean,
when you ask the public, what do you think?
That's how
sometimes
you
get some rough answers. So.
You gotta let yourself out there.
Yeah,
let yourself be vulnerable and take it with stride.
We have 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, if you don't mind, go ahead and give us a review. Give us a high rating. If you don't want to give us a high rating, maybe you don't do it at all.
Yeah.
But go ahead and leave some comments in there. Reach out, email matt@usacares.org. Let me know what you think of this podcast. Let me know if you have some ideas or some people, what stories you liked, what stories you didn't like. If you think Alexis should just do the show on her own, that's fine too. But we really do we care about what you think. We care about what you want to hear and what guests you want on. So hopefully we can have more great guests like Krist, and maybe your wife will come back next time.
Yeah, she would love it.
We're going to guilt her into it.
She would love it.
So it'd be great. But go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make this podcast part of your weekly routine. We'd love to spend each week with you and share some more great stories. Learn more about USA Cares at usacares.org. When you support USA Cares, you are supporting veterans in crisis. So go ahead and hit that donate button. There's a monthly donation program called Cadence. Really helps us a lot. Really helps us to kind of plan out our finances and know what's going to be there so we can help more people. But from all of us, thank you so much for being with us. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.